What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Brandy and you're watching the Glam Belle, and today is Makeup Monday. I'm going to be sharing with you guys the basic do's and don'ts of makeup. Quick disclaimer before we get started. Makeup is extremely personal to the person that is applying it. If there are things in my don't list that you do on a regular basis that is part of your makeup routine, please do not take offense to this. This is just my personal opinion. If you're not subscribed to my channel, you know the drill. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down there. Make sure to hit the bell so that you're notified when I upload videos here on YouTube. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you end up enjoying it or if you just enjoy makeup videos. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the do's and the don'ts of makeup. So the first step in my makeup routine is typically priming the skin. This is not a do or don't in my opinion, because there are some people that don't like to prime, that don't feel they need it, and that's totally fine. I love to prime my skin. I'm gonna do half of my face in the don't and half of my face in the do. So I'm gonna go ahead and prime this side of my skin. And this is the Glow Recipe Watermelon Glow Mist. I do like to go in with a little bit of a pore filling primer, and I'm using the Tacha Silk Canvas Primer. And again, just going in on this side of my skin just to help conceal any larger pores. All right, now it is time for foundation, and the do's of foundation is making sure to match your foundation to your neck so that there is no line of demarcation. It doesn't look like you have a mask on your face. This is super important in just making sure that your makeup looks like it matches. I'm gonna go in with this right here. This is the Pat McGrath Lab Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Foundation. I'm gonna go into the do side and just blend this into my skin. The other thing you do want to do with your foundation is to bring it down your jawline and blend that down the neck a little bit so that it does match your neck. I'm going into my Too Faced Born This Way foundation. This is in the shade Natural Beige, and this is the shade that I typically use when I am pretty self-tan. I'm gonna go in on this side and we are just going to blend this in. And also on this side, I'm not gonna drag it down my jaw. A lot of people think that if they choose a foundation that's a few shades darker than their skin tone, that it's gonna make them look more tan. But what happens is it actually just looks very, very odd because it does not match your neck. Just try to match your foundation to your natural skin tone. So the next step is concealer. And what you do want to do is to choose a concealer that is 1 to 2 shades lighter than your natural skin tone, than your foundation. That way it helps to highlight the areas that you want to highlight on your face, as well as concealing any dark circles underneath of the eye. What you don't want to do is choose a concealer that is 3 or 4 shades lighter than your skin tone. It starts to look very, very strange, just too stark white on the face. I'm gonna use my Tart Shape Tape in the shade Light Neutral, and I'm just gonna add a tiny bit of concealer right there, right there. I'm gonna go in with my Blendiful to blend that out, since I have the dark foundation on my beauty blender now. Now it's time for the don't side. I'm going in with the Urban Decay Stay Naked Correcting Concealer. This is in the shade 20NN. And I'm just gonna go in and do a heavy portion, because a lot of times people think that they need to use tons of concealer when in reality you only need to use a tiny bit, and then just blending it out well will get the job done. On this side, we have a very nice concealed under eye, but still nicely highlighted. And then on this side, we have more of a stark white kind of highlighted look, which, you know, hey, if that's your thing, then you go for it. But this is just not as natural looking, I guess, on the skin. So it depends on what you're trying to go for. I typically try to stick to the more kind of natural kind of skin like look. Next up is powder, and I'm gonna go in with the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter powder. You do want to set your concealed areas with a little bit of powder just so that they don't move throughout the day. What you don't want to do is over powder. Many times you'll see people doing all of this baking and all of this powdering of the face, and what that typically does is it leaves the face looking very cakey. It might look great on camera, but in real life it's gonna look very cakey, and especially if you have more mature skin, all of that powder is going to emphasize under eye wrinkles and creases, and it's just not a good look. So on the do side, I'm taking a tiny bit of powder right in the cap, just putting that on a little brush, tapping off the excess powder, making sure that there are no creases under the eye, and just going in and setting the under eye with a little bit of powder. And I also like to go in with just a tiny bit of powder on a large fluffy brush just to set the rest of the face. On the don't side, as you can see, I've already got some creasing going on, but I'm not even gonna worry about that. I'm gonna go in and start to bake. So I'm getting quite a bit of powder on my little beauty blender here, and I'm just gonna go in, pack on the powder. Now, while I let that powder sit, I'm gonna go ahead and move into contouring. And on the do side, what you wanna do to contour is use a kind of taupe shade bronzer that is matte. Nothing that has shimmer in it. You want something that looks kind of like this. This is the Hula bronzer by Benefit. This is a small contour F05 by Sigma. Going in with a little bit of that contour powder. I'm gonna go right at my cheekbones and just blending that in, just to give my cheekbones a little extra definition. And I'm also just gonna bring that up along the hairline just a little bit. What you don't want to do is to go in with an extremely warm bronzer for contouring. For this side, I'm going to go in with the MAC Give Me Sun bronzer. This is a very warm bronzer, and I actually love this during the summer, but I like this for bronzing and not contouring. And we're going to go into this side and do the same exact thing. And as you can see, the warmer bronzer just looks harsher on the skin. It doesn't look as natural and nice. And this with the taupe matte kind of shade, it just gives a natural shadow to the face. Next step is to add some blush. And today I'm going to use the Burts Bees Shy Pink blush. What you do want to do when adding blush is to start on the apples of the cheek and then blend up. So you want the majority of the color to be on the apple of the cheek, just as if you were blushing. That's basically where you want to put your blush, and then you can start to blend it upward. This way it just gives a very natural flushed look to the face. What you don't want to do is to go heavy-handed up here and not focus it on the apples of your cheek, as well as bringing the blush too low. It's going to drag the face down instead of lifting it, which is what we want. We want that lifted kind of look, starting on the outer portion and kind of dragging it down this way. I am going to add a little bit of the bronzer to the sides of my nose. On this side, I am going to go in with the Hula bronzer. And then on this side, we're going to go in with the Give Me Sun bronzer. Now it's time for highlight, and I'm going to go in with the Becca Vanilla Quartz highlight. What you do want to do is to highlight the areas that you want to bring forward. So that is usually the top of the cheekbones. So I just kind of keep it towards the back of my cheekbones, and also right around the brow, kind of in this little C formation right here. I also like to do kind of the tip of the nose. Kind of hard to separate the center of the face. And I also like to do right here, and just a tiny bit right on the forehead. What you don't want to do is bring your highlighter down over your cheek. Anywhere in this area, especially if you have larger pores, any highlight is going to highlight those pores and make your pores look larger. You don't want to go crazy on the cheekbones and bringing it down over the cheek. For someone that has really perfect skin, This can look pretty. Most people do have larger pores right through this area, and if you have more mature skin, you usually have more fine lines and wrinkles like right towards your under eye. So those are areas that you don't really want highlighted. Highlight is to give that healthy, youthful glow. And if you're just smacking highlight all over the face, it can look really strange, especially if you're going outdoors in natural lighting and it's just like shining. Your whole face looks like a shining disco ball. The next step is brows. And for brows, what you do want to do is try to go with the shape of your natural brow. Try to stick to a shade that's 1 to 2 shades within your actual natural brow hair shade. This is the dark brown brow powder by Anastasia, and I kind of go into both of these and mix them to give a nice natural look to the brow. What you don't want to do is go in with a brow powder that is entirely too dark. I don't want to use something that is ebony or black on my brow because it's going to make my brow look way too harsh, way too unnatural. These are the do's and don'ts. Let's go ahead and do some brows. So here we have the more natural side, which is still a little bit of a bold brow, but it still kind of goes with that natural look, versus this side, which has a much darker brow. It looks a little more stark, a little more harsh on the skin. And I did also set these with 2 different colors. So I set the more natural side with a lighter brown shade, and then this side with more of a deeper brown shade to set the brow. Next step is to do the eyes. What I always do is go in with a little bit of concealer or eye primer just to cancel out any veins on the eyes, and it just gives a nice base for the shadow to stick to. This just gives a nice even base to the skin so that it's ready for shadow. On this side, I still have a lot of discoloration. My eyelids are a little bit oily, and the shadow is just not going to go on as smooth and as pigmented on this side. The next step is eyeshadow, and what you do want to do is to use a nice neutral matte shade for the crease. This just helps to give the eye definition and really kind of sets the stage for the rest of your eye look. This is the Hanging in Hawaii palette by BH Cosmetics, and I'm going to go into Shaka right here for the crease. Now the eye has just this beautiful wash of color in it. I never add shimmers to the crease, and so that brings us to the don't side, and that is do not use shimmer shades in the crease. Makeup is very personal, it's very creative. If you like doing shimmers in the crease, then you keep doing what you're doing. For me personally, I just don't feel like it's as flattering. I'm gonna go into this shade Sandy, which is a similar shade to the first shade we used right here, except for it is shimmery. And we're gonna use this on the don't side. As our skin starts to mature, it starts to get, fine lines and wrinkles. Normally, this is the area that you tend to start getting more loose skin. Remember, anytime you add a shimmer or a highlight, it's going to emphasize that area. So this is basically bringing out the loose skin that I have on my eyelid, whereas this kind of is making it recede, and it's almost contouring the eye and diminishing those fine lines that I have on my eyelid. So really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and finish the eyes. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use this darker matte shade on the outer corner and use this shimmery shade on the don't side on the outer corner. I'm just going to use a shimmer shade for the lid because I always love using shimmer shades for the lid to just make the eye look nice and bright. Now we have our eyes done, and basically the only place that I like to add shimmer is on the eyelid, on the inner corner, and a little bit on the brow bone. On this side, it just looks like a big disco ball, and it's just not as contoured, not as becoming, in my opinion. Next up is eyeliner, and what you do want to do is to add a little bit of eyeliner and kind of smudge it out. It helps to give a nice soft look to the eye. What you don't want to do, in my opinion, is to have a very harsh looking line that isn't blended well, that's choppy, and you don't want to bring the eyeliner down, which will drag the eye down. You always want to focus on bringing the eyes and the face up. What I like to typically do on a normal basis is to use a pencil, and this is the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On pencil in the shade Perversion. You can even use a lighter pencil if you want. What I like to do is take this and just kind of smudge it as close to the lash line as I possibly can. And I use kind of short feathery strokes to do this. Then I like to take a small definer brush. This is the M508 brush by Morphe. And I like to take that and just kind of blend that line out. And you can actually even take a little angled brush if you do want to do a little bit of a winged look and extend that liner up at the corner of the eye. And if I'm adding liner on the bottom lash line, I also do the same exact thing. I'll add just a little bit on the outer corner and blend that in so that it looks nice and soft. What you don't want to do is use a liquid liner, which is probably the hardest type of liner to use, especially if you are a beginner. So here on the don't side, you can see it just looks more harsh. It's not blended out. It's a little bit choppy. And in trying to do the wing, instead of bringing it up, I pulled it down because this is what sometimes people will do. And you can tell it kind of drags the eye down instead of lifting it up. We want that kind of lifted look. I also used that liquid liner to go all the way across the lower lash line. And again, it just looks a little harsh. So the next step is lashes. With the lashes, we're focusing on false lashes, and what you do want to do is find a lash that suits your eye, that's not too overpowering, and something that has a very thin lash band. What you don't want to do is have a lash that just overpowers the eye look and you can't really even see the eye look, or a lash that the lash band is super thick and very hard to conceal. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pop on my lashes and I'll be right back. Okay, now that I have my lashes on, you guys can see the difference. This is the Ardell Demi wispies, which I love. They're a very natural, everyday kind of lash. And then these are the Red Cherry number 5 lash. It's just a little too much for my eye. The other do and don't that I want to mention when it comes to eyes is using liner on the waterline. I personally have smaller eyes, so when I'm doing my waterline, I typically stick to more of a nude pencil. What you don't want to do if you do have smaller eyes is use a black pencil on the waterline. Every once in a blue moon, depending on my mood, I will use a dark pencil. Just as a rule of thumb, I typically don't. So just so you guys can see what I'm talking about, I'm going to add a nude pencil to my waterline on the do side. And on this side, I added the same Urban Decay black pencil in the shade Perversion. It just closes up the eye in a way that is not as becoming as this one. So the last step is lips, and this is going to be difficult to kind of do half and half, but what you do want to do is overline the lips just a little bit to add a little extra volume, but using short strokes so that it can blend well. It doesn't look like a harsh line on the lip. So I'm going to go in with the MAC Soar lip pencil. I went just outside of my natural lip line, so it makes my lips look a little more plump, and I did soft strokes so that it looks nice and blended and not like a harsh line. The don't side, I'm going to do exactly the opposite. I'm going to do more of a harsh line. Then on the do side, I'm going to use a lipstick that is a very similar color to the lip liner. Really blend it into the lip liner. And then on the don't side, I'm actually going to go in with a lipstick that's a little too light for the lip liner. This is the Virgin Liquid Lip by Morphe. The lip liner looks a little bit too harsh and it's just not as seamless and as blended. And then the last step is you do want to set your makeup. You want to use a setting spray so that any powders that you use will just soak into the skin and make it look like skin. It also helps to make your makeup last longer. What you don't want to do is to skip that step and to have your makeup look thick and cakey and powdery on the face. So I'm gonna go in with the Morphe setting spray, and I'm just going to set the dew side of my face. So that is it. This is our side-by-side comparison. What do you guys think? So this is how I would typically do my makeup versus the don't side. This is the do side versus the don't side. So that is it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this kind of side-by-side comparison, and hopefully it really helped you guys to understand why a lot of people do what they do when it comes to makeup, because if you're not used to wearing makeup, it can be very, very confusing. Placement of products, what kind of products you use, and all of that definitely makes a big difference in the outcome of your makeup, as you can see. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. I love you guys so, so much, and I will see you in my next video. Peace out.